Now, and in the awareness of God's presence, let us pray. Father, Mother God, we give thanks for this opportunity to be here, aware, and receptive. We allow your love to move through us, unencumbered, unbroken, unconditional. We see your love moving out into our moment, blessing each and every one in this moment. Lifting, healing, transforming, here and now. And in this awareness, we bring to mind Evie, Lisa Gerard's youngest, who's in Children's Hospital today with breathing problems. We see her respiratory issues resolved, healed, clarified, transformed. We see her strengthened. We see her whole as she is in truth. And for others in our experience who seem to have a need for the awareness of your love here and now, we hold them in consciousness. We see them lifted. We see them transformed here, now. And for this opportunity to be ministers of your word, we give thanks. And so it is that together we say, Amen. Several months ago, I got a call from Sabrina Fritz, who I know and have, Facebook relationship with. Of course, I have a Facebook relationship with her. I know her, so. She said to me, we have this fellow that lives down in Albuquerque. He's an interesting fellow. He's looking for a place to do a workshop. I said, well, tell me more. And so she proceeded to let me know that Glenn Aparicio Parry is the author of Original Thinking, a radical revisioning of time, humanity, and nature. He is an educator, an international speaker, an entrepreneur, and a visionary. He has a lifelong passion of reforming thinking and education into a coherent, cohesive whole. The founder and past president of the Seed Institute, Parry is currently the president of the think tank, the Circle for Original Thinking. He organized and participated in the groundbreaking Language of Spirit conferences for 13 years, from 1999 to 2011, that brought together Native American and Western scientists in dialogue, moderated by Leroy Little Bear. He's a member of the Institute of Noetic Sciences and the Theosophical Society as part of the lifelong interest in bridging the arts and sciences. As an avid outdoorsman, he now makes his home in the foothills of the Sandia Mountains in Albuquerque with his wife, Tomoko. And she is here with him today. Glenn is going to be also presenting Sunday Talk this morning, because what I said to Sabrina was, how about Sunday afternoon? And if he's going to do Sunday afternoon, how about if he does Sunday morning? And so here he is, Glenn Aparicio Parry. Ooh.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
living water, unity. Thank you. Thank you for the blessing of your community, your beautiful community. I agree with you. Thank you very much. I'm a guest too. Thank you. Thank you for noticing that. Thank you, David, for what you've created here. Thank you. What we've created. Yes, very well. Appreciate that. Living water unity. I want to say to you that you have a sacred obligation. Your name, both parts, living water and unity, are exactly the message that needs to be heard in the greater society today. It hurts my heart the way water is treated in my own lifetime. When I was a teenager, I visited my cousins. I'm of Basque and Aragon Spanish and Jewish descent. And I visited my cousins in the high Pyrenees in northern Spain. And we stopped frequently to drink agua fresca. It was a sacred occasion. When we stopped to drink that water, my cousins we were all about the same age. They got all excited. Around the next corner is going to be more agua fresca. And we would stop, and in a sacred way, we would drink those living waters. And it was very, very healing. Very, very healing. I wrote the book Original Thinking for several reasons, but one of the most important reasons for me was that I was deeply upset about the way modern mainstream thinking has come to believe that the elements, light, air, water, and earth, are dead. Also, our Mother Earth is dead. And if we believe that the elements are not alive, we treat them that way. So look what's happened to our soil. Look what's happened to our atmosphere. Look what's happened to our water. It comes from a place, it's not a malevolent place that people are coming from. But there was a shift in consciousness that happened not so long ago, really only 500 years ago. And in the workshop, I can discuss this in detail. I'm not going to go into it now. But there was a shift then where we began to separate our consciousness from the earth. What's so beautiful about this community is I'm preaching to the choir because you're singing about the power of love as a river. You're singing about God talking to me. You know, that's a beautiful reconnection. And all religions are all about, I love words, so I'm glad what they're doing with the kids, because the power of the spoken word. All religions are about reconnecting with the source. And that is super important precisely because modern society has disconnected from the source. And we need to learn to reconnect with the source all the time. All the time. So, one experience I had with water I want to share was when I got to visit Costa Rica. Has anybody ever visited Costa Rica here? Wow. See? Good. You're the right. Yes. Well, one of the things you will notice when you're in Costa Rica is the power of the rivers. The rivers are really running free. They're full of prana, full of energy. And the mangroves live along the river. It's very funny to me that the name of that tree is mangrove. It's almost like they wanted to get the good condos by the river, you know, and they're there. You just feel so exhilarated. And I was there in Costa Rica ostensibly to swim with dolphins. I was leading a group to go swim with dolphins. We had done that in Hawaii several times. This was the first trip to Costa Rica. This was in 2002. I didn't know when we set this trip up that the dolphins of Costa Rica actually weren't interested in swimming with humans. The ones in Hawaii are. The ones in Hawaii are. They're very used to it. They have a message to impart, and they communicate. There's a beautiful thing. The ones in Costa Rica were being netted. They were being netted, and they wanted to get far away from human contact. They were millions of them, or hundreds, thousands. They were swimming very fast. Yes, if you can call that swimming with dolphins, we swam with dolphins. They went by us very fast. Even that was an exhilarating experience. And we also were blessed to go to the Oso Peninsula and walk through the rainforest as well. And then one night I had a dream. I saw my wife's smiling face, and then I was dolphin. And dolphin swims to the bottom, almost to the bottom of the ocean. But just before dolphin gets to the bottom, dolphin realizes, I'm a river dolphin. And he comes back up all the way to the surface. And then consciousness expands, and up in the sky, consciousness is watching the dolphin swimming. And where's the dolphin swimming? Swimming toward the mouth of the river. And then the landscape gets larger, and there's many, many, many rivers like these isles and more, about a dozen full, beautiful, prana-filled rivers that are flowing together toward the ocean. And I begin to hear a drumbeat. Dum, 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 dum. And I begin to hear and feel and pulsate with the living earth and Mother Earth. And I'm in complete ecstasy. This is fantastic. And I awaken, and that feeling is still with me today. I went back to New Mexico, where, although we revere our Rio Grande, it's a trickle of its old self. And I was blessed to be in a meeting with Grandfather Leon Secatero, one of the dear elders that I've ever known. And I told this story to Grandfather Leon. And he said to me, Glenn, that's what it is. The rivers are the ventricles of Mother Earth. The rivers need to run free. And as long as the rivers don't run free, we're going to have cardiovascular conditions on human beings, because we are water. We're 70% water. We're connected with those waters. That's why living, water, unity. You're connected with those waters everywhere. And we have to live that way if we're going to save this planet. And a lot of people think, hydroelectric power, that doesn't cause many emissions, and it's all right. But, I don't make any apology for it. I'm against hydroelectric power because I have felt this. I know that the rivers want to run free. They want to flow. And that's how we'll be able to love better and better when Mother Earth's rivers are flowing free. It's so important. It's not just, we can't isolate water. It's all the elements that are alive. So how is it that we have to breathe air to stay alive if that air is not alive already? If that air is dead, how does it keep us alive? The same with the water. If the water is completely dead, if it's completely inert, how can that water keep us alive? And the same with the soil, really, because we can't make a distinction, actually, between soil and water. The soil, as we all know, needs to be healthy so that water can filter through correctly. What happens when the trees are cut near the river. The water goes wild. The water is not happy about that. Water needs to be at a certain temperature because the water of the earth really is not tantamount, it is the blood of the earth. So just like our blood, when it gets into a fever, we're not well. Water is not well when the temperature rises. So a river that is healthy is lined with trees. It sees very little sun, and that's the way it likes it. It likes it cool. It likes it cold. And that's also the way the fish like it too, some kinds, So it's once we do things like create dams, we are messing with the whole watershed. We're messing with the whole ecosystem. And we're treating it in a very utilitarian way. That's what we do with water. We also, because we treat it in this utilitarian way as not alive and don't give it respect, we channel it in just metal containers. That wasn't done in antiquity. They used to use wood. They understood a more of a symbiotic relationship between the wood and the water. The metal ends up putting a lot of impurities and toxins into the water, which we then have to use our science to remove later on. And we do have good science when it comes to creating reverse osmosis water, which is essentially as close to dead water as you can find, but it does have all the impurities removed. But water is not H2O like they told you in school. It's so much more. So when it's going through the soil, it's picking up all kinds of minerals, all kinds of friends, even allies that make this water pure. And we need to know when to drink water. We need to be drinking it like I was as a teenager up at the springs. Aquifer water was not meant to be consumed by human beings. It was meant to stay underneath there. When I shared time with the Hopis, they did a water conference on Hopi land, and I was so blessed to be there because they really touched my heart the way they talked about the relationship of the underground waters with the water and the sky, the rivers, the lakes, the oceans. All these waters were talking to each other, just like they're talking to the water within our body. And we can't just say, okay, this is water, H2O. So aquifer water equals water, so we can drink it. In fact, we know the technology, so we can do this. Or we can do fracking, because that doesn't matter. It only, that's just the groundwater. Well, the groundwater is connected to everything. So if we mess with the groundwater, we are going to be in bad shape. But what I'm here for is, I'm stating that as a problem. But I do want to, in the workshop, I'm going to, from the most compassionate place that I can find, because I really do have compassion for the Western worldview. How did we get here? We didn't get here because we were trying to screw things up. We actually got here because we were really trying to improve things. And we had very developed science. So some of it works very, very well. But when it's disconnected from the source, when we forget the very basics, that water is alive, then problems ensue. So it's not just the water. I want to tell you, first I'll sip a little living water. Thank you. Ever since I was coming here, every time I drink water, I just say, it's like a mantra now, living water. But I want to share an experience I had around fire. I was blessed to be invited to do ceremony with the Canyoncito Band of Navajo, which their reservation begins about 25 miles west of Albuquerque. It's pretty close. Then it goes up north to their sacred grounds. They can still get from their reservation where their homes are to the sacred grounds in about 25 to 40, 30 miles on horseback. But the roads go completely the other way. So to get there driving, we have to drive to the south, then we drive to the east, then we drive to the north, then we drive to the west for quite a long way. So it takes, and we're driving over dirt roads. And the first year, I thought, I needed to come back possibly. So I said, I think I'll bring my Honda Accord. Nobody had ever brought a Honda Accord here. So Grandfather Leon Secatero, who could see the future, he looked at me, looked at the Honda, said, okay. So I drove that Honda Accord about a quarter of the time on two wheels, and I arrived there 4.5 hours later through unbelievably tough roads, but somehow I made it. I don't know if it was the blessing from Leon, probably. We meet in a circle. We call it a hogan, but there's no building there. It's a fire circle. In fact, one of the participants in the fire circle is a tree that was growing there. It's still growing there. So it's just nobody pays it any mind. It's part of the circle. And that first night, for some reason, I was asked to tend the ceremonial fire. And I had never done that before. I learned that evening that tending a ceremonial fire, and I was having breakfast with David and Mark and John and also he's not here, but a gentleman there who also understood that you can have a relationship with fire. I was just learning that then. So I was taught to feed the fire tobacco. I was taught to feed the fire sage. I was taught to feed the fire food if the fire was hungry, or coffee if it was tired. Developed a relationship with the fire, not just wood. Okay, so and then we told stories and till late in the night, and I was still tending the fire, but it seemed like it was time for everybody to go back to their tents to sleep. So I went back to my tent to sleep. But then, in the middle of the night, I heard a voice in my ear, and it was Grandfather Leon, who had the softest, most mellifluous, beautiful voice. And he just told me, Glenn, get up and tend the fire. And so I was sleeping in all my clothes, because it was very cold out there. This is done in their New Year's time, probably about 20 degrees. So I just had to put on my shoes, and I got up, got out of the tent, and I proceeded to fall over. I was actually literally floored by the stars. There were so many. That's the reason that I wanted to move to New Mexico. First time I ever drove through there. But this was even more than any other place I'd ever been because it's in such a remote location. And so I fell down, and then I got up again. And I started to walk toward the fire. Now, I never use a flashlight. I don't like them. Because there's enough light from the stars, and there's enough light from the fire. So I walked over to that fire. And sure enough, it was dying when I got there. It was really low. And there are coyotes howling right around and everything, and they're having a dialogue too. They go from, 30 miles away, they have a conversation. It's pretty cool listening to them. But so I built up the fire to a big, big blaze, and I went back to sleep. And I thought I would, sleep for a while, but I was mistaken because I was misinformed. I was told that Grandfather Leon's son, his name is Orlando Secatero, who's a beautiful flute player, that he was going to wake us up by playing beautiful flute music in the morning. I thought, oh, that sounds great. But they were kidding me. Because instead, this guy we call the Coyote, Leland, at approximately 5 o'clock in the morning, a couple hours before sunrise, starts saying, coffee, coffee, you're burning daylight, and so, that's how we woke up, But then things did get beautiful. We went to the fire, and the medicine men, and there were 3 or 4 medicine men, started to sing and sang for over an hour and a half, singing beautiful songs which are welcoming in the sun. And when that sun did rise, and the women, by the way, are around the outer, they're making breakfast, and they are actually making coffee. All right, so we do have some coffee we drink, just gritty black coffee. So they're making breakfast. But right after, when the sun rises, I had an experience where I understood that the sun that was rising up over the horizon was the same sun as that fire, was the same sun as my solar plexus. And just like the water that's running through our heart and through our veins and through the rivers, all of that is one. All of that is unity. You guys have a sacred obligation. Living water unity. There's nothing more important that could go out in the world today. And then something else happened at that time, which is that after the sun rose, I saw Grandfather Leon coming back into camp. And he was bringing some people who had been lost. So he got a message. It wasn't a cell phone message or a text message, because we didn't have those things out there. But somehow he got a message, which is pretty remarkable. Not only did he get a message that people are lost, he also knew where to go to get them, which is pretty good, because that's all done with his consciousness. So he wasn't there that evening at all. He had left in the middle of the night. He wasn't there to whisper in my ear. So how did he do it? How did he observe remotely the fire was dwindling, and how did he get the message to my ear? Now, I was wondering that. So that day we went out, and we go out and we put corn pollen in all sacred sites. This is called Tata Din. This is really sacred. We did that, and I took the opportunity to ask Leon. I said, Leon, how did you do that last night when you came and whispered in my ear? Oh, he didn't answer. He just pointed at the beautiful cliffs that we were coming up, like a lot of native elders. And his message was clear to me: is stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about it. Just be here. But later on, I did hear something from Orlando Secatero. Remember him, the flute player? Well, he was trained in the medicine ways too. And he said that wasn't Leon that was speaking in your ear. That was the fire, disguising his voice, so that you would listen, so that you would get up and do it. And wow, that really made me start to think too. And that's a lot about what my work is about, really, is where do our thoughts come from? Now, we there's a lot of ways of thinking about it, but for me, thoughts come from place. And they also happen in a way that's very similar to water. Very similar to water. And why not? We're 70% water. So I think it's a really good idea to try to think like water thinks. Boy, isn't that good? Like your song. Water is such so beautiful at flowing around obstacles and just softly handling what needs to be done. It's also very determined. Water gets there when it needs to get there. It cannot be stopped. And the same thing is true of a plant that's largely water. They get where they need to get. The idea that a plant is inanimate or that it grows very slowly or something is maybe true, but there's an immense energy going on. It's not inanimate at all. So we know that. The same with the rocks. Everything is alive, I feel, and I think it's important to recover that. And if we can think like water thinks, what would that mean? We would be reconnecting our consciousness with something that's flowing. So what we've done now is we've separated feeling. We say, this is feeling, and this is thinking. I don't believe that's true. It's one continuum. It's one continuum. The gut instincts that come from a place, they mature, just like water matures when it's permeating and going through the soil. Those gut instincts, if you allow them, they become your heartfelt yearnings. They become your intuitions. And later on, if your thinking is grounded in living nature, then your rational mind is also going to be really good too. And there's nothing wrong with that. But now that rational thought is put in service of that deep instinct that's connecting you to the earth, connecting you to each other, connecting you to the so-called past, our ancestors, because there really isn't anything that's past. I mean, we know this in modern science. A vibration never ends. So how could it be past? It's still there. It's still vibrating. We can connect to it. We can feel. Yes. So that is all a beautiful thing. So thinking can be very, very beautiful. That's what the Greeks thought. That's what Socrates thought. That's what he thought that beautiful, elegant thinking was beautiful. Rational thinking, its real roots is in the word ratio. And what is a ratio? It's a relationship between things. So again, it's about unity, about connecting, and if we can connect our thinking to the source, living water, we're going to be feeling very, very full, very whole, blessed by the Spirit of God, blessed by all of creation, all the time. And that's a beautiful thing. So we can discuss that in the workshop, but the workshop is also an opportunity for everyone else to speak. So we'll do something which is a dialogue circle, a talking circle with a talking stick. And everyone will be able to speak from their heart. And that's really what it's all about. I love leading those because it's very fulfilling for the facilitator. I get to sit back and listen and take it all in, all the beautiful wisdom that's here. So thank you so much. I really, really, it's an honor to speak to you, beautiful people. Thank you very much. And that's about it. Thank you, David. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right, let me water you.
And we'll have our meditation as we rest in this moment. Let us turn within to that surge of life that flows through you. Get in touch with the movement of the water within you. Feel the water nourishing, filtering and removing all of those things that no longer serve you, but bring forth all of those things that do serve you. Get in touch with that circulation within you. Imagine the flow from your heart moving through the digestive system, surrounding it, absorbing from it, moving out to even the very tips of your toes, of your fingers, bringing nourishment. Water, oxygen, nutrients of various sorts. And feel it coming back from the tips of your toes, the tips of your fingers, moving through your body and being filtered, releasing all those things that you no longer need. Coming back to be pushed out once again in this ever-ending, never-ending process that extends beyond our body and into our universe, into all of creation. As this love moves through you, bringing forth the nourishment to all of those in your company. And for this opportunity to celebrate the movement of water within us, we give thanks. And as we come back into this time and space, let us come back sharing the words of Alleluia.